I've got a leaking fork seals, so I'm going to take the forks off and replace the fork seals. There's also some damage to my forks which I discovered the last time I had them apart, so I'm going to repair the damage as well. So we've made a start. I've first of all I've taken the cap plugs, the plugs out the top of the forks just to let some air in, and I've drained the oil on both sides, so the oil's been drained, and I'm just going to put the drain plugs back in, and then we're going to dismantle the forks and do replace the seals and replace some of the bushes. I've got some special tools from that I borrowed from the BMW club. They do a very good tool hire service, and that's a very good service. You have to be a member of the BMW club to hire them, but the £30 a year annual fee, in my opinion, is well worth it. And of course you've got the use of any of the other benefits that the BMW club offer. The chap who looks after sending out the tools, Mike Delico, is very good. He sends the tools out very promptly, and it's a minimal fee for hiring the tools, so well worth it. I think the last time I hired tools, the actual cost of the tool hire was £5, and then it was the cost of the postage to send them to me and send them back again. So more of the tools later. So I'm just going to put the drain plug back in the other side. One thing to note, I've shown this I think before when I've been servicing the bike, but when you put these drain plugs back in, the plug is only a small diameter thread. It doesn't need much torque applied, so it's easy to strip this thread. It's an M5 thread. Right, next thing, I'm going to take the front wheel off. This is all fairly straightforward stuff, so I won't be giving much of an explanation as to what I'm doing. Loosening off the axle pinch bolts on the other side now. Needs loosening up a bit more. I'm just tilting the wheel here in an effort to push the pistons on the brake caliper back in a bit. Make it easier to get the wheel out. So there's the wheel off. And now I'm going to take the brake caliper off. This is, as you can see, not a standard brake caliper I've got on here, but the normal brake caliper mountings. On this particular caliper, I have a shim between the fork and the caliper body, just to keep it in proper alignment with the disc. I can't remember whether the standard caliper has these or not. You'll have to find out for yourself, so make a mental note of the fitting. I'm just going to screw those back into the thread of the caliper. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is take the mud guard off, or fender if you're in America. So 4 metal washers, 4 rubber washers, and 4 dome nuts, and then I can just ease the mud guard up. I also have here, for my braided brake hose setup, I've got a clamp there that I've put on to just secure the pipe, which I've got to undo, and then I've got to undo this brace here across the top of the forks. Again, this might not be how your forks are. I've done modifications over the years and I can't remember whether this attachment is standard or not. It could well be. Right, I'll do the fork brace. This, you may find that these studs get corroded in because they're steel studs going into the aluminium of the fork leg. So if you haven't already done so, it's a good idea to take these off, especially if you ride in the winter, and copper slip the threads. That will, because otherwise they'll end up like the exhaust nuts corroding, and then you're in all sorts of trouble. Just going to turn it to the right, John. So you can take these forks out of the clamps up at the headstock, but you can, if you want to, so you can slide the whole fork out from the top. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just take the sliders off the bottom of the stanchions. Leave the fork legs in. There is a special grip to hold the stanchion if you decide to take the stanchion out and you want to dismantle the forks in the vise on the bench. Whilst I'm looking at this, you can, if you want, tie this up or put it to one side like that. If you're worried about stressing the brake hose, I'm not. This is a braided brake hose. There's not much weight hanging on the bottom of that hose, so I'm not particularly concerned about that. So there we are. There's one of the leaking forks, which you can see. This is the other one, so I'll undo this clamp as well. And again, we can take that up. Here's the damaged bit of fork leg there. You can see there's a chunk of aluminium missing out of there, which I filled with RTV. You can see it's just around here. So there's the damaged bit of fork, and as I say, I filled that with silicone sealant. I've still got the chunk of metal, so I'm going to weld that back in, hopefully. I don't know how it got damaged. The bike had been over. I found it like it cracked like it when I last had the forks apart, and I just because I needed to get the bike back on the road fairly quickly, I didn't get round to welding it, but we're going to have a go at repairing that today. So that's that. So we'll take this stanchion off first, and to get at that, there's a cap screw in the bottom of the fork here where I'm putting this socket. Take that out now. There we go. have it. So there's the fork tube off. When you're changing these, when you're changing the fork oil, there's always a little bit that stays in the bottom of the fork tube, and the quantities of oil that you put in the fork after you've dismantled it are actually greater than the quantities when you're doing an oil change. So that's specified in the workshop manual, so pay attention to that. When I reassemble this, more fork oil will be going back in than I would normally put in at an oil change. Okay, so
when do you tend to do your fork oil intervals?
once a year or once every 10,000 miles, whichever comes sooner. So I've put some soft jaws in the vise, and I'm hoping, there we go. So this is just a dust seal that comes out. This is just the silicone I put in last time, and there's the silicone I put in an effort to keep water from getting in. So there's the broken bit of just have a little clean under here. There's a circlip. There's a circlip on top of the seal. So there's the seal. This is the special tool for getting the fork seal out. It's got two parts to it. This outer collar here, this one, we've got an inner screw plunger which moves up and down, and we've got a collar here which is adjusted by this outer screw here, and you can see as I screw the collar in, then the legs move outwards. Okay, so what I want to do first of all is get the tool in position on the seal, and you can see that there are slots in the legs so that I can grip the seal. So I put the tool in below the seal and then screw the outer collar out until the seal is firmly gripped. Okay, nice strong grip on the seal. Let's just come back in again a bit. That's better. So if you look down at the seal, okay, you can see that I've gripped beneath the seal on all three legs. Right, now there is a special tool that sits, it's got 3 legs and it sits on the top of the aluminium of the fork, but that was not obtainable when I ordered the tools, so I'm just going to use a bar of metal across the top. Okay, so I put a more substantial piece of metal on there. I can see we're distorting the seal a bit, so I'm going to just undo that and wind those spreaders in a bit further. That's better. Try again. So the seal is definitely moving upwards. I can see it coming out now. Can you see it? There it is.
Yeah.
So I'll loosen that off, drop my socket down the fork tube, leave that happen, and there's the seal out. Okay, there's also a bush in here that I'm going to replace. You can see there's the bush there, and there's also a metal distance piece, so that's got to come out. And you can see more clearly now what I'm dealing with. So I think at this stage I'm going to look at repairing this bit of fork leg.